Hello, I'm Scott Rawlins, and though you can usually find me in a classroom teaching scientific illustration or working on various illustration projects in another room in my house, today I'd like to welcome you to my new studio, the kitchen. Because of the COVID-19 quarantine, illustration work has slowed, and in fact all of my classes have been taught online, so I find that I have extra time to devote to creative efforts of my own devising. You may be surprised to hear that these don't include drawing, painting, sculpting, or any of the other typical visual art forms. Instead, I've been cooking. So rather than use paintbrushes and pencils, my new tools are things like these. Let's take a closer look at the situation, and perhaps you'll agree that creativity can, and maybe should, take a variety of guises. Either because there is no work coming in, or we have been prevented from accessing our usual workspaces with necessary equipment, many of us are no longer able to work as illustrators, but we are finding a variety of ways to exercise our creativity. In addition to dealing with our need to create, these activities are a way to combat depression, anxiety, and stir craziness. They also allow us to feel more independent, more self-sufficient, and in greater control of our lives. Some people call this constructive procrastination. A psychologist coined the term fruitful boredom to refer to the drive to explore ways to engage ourselves when we are unable to carry on as usual. Many of us already spend a great deal of time in front of computer screens, working on digital illustrations, or more recently, participating in numerous online classes and meetings. So instead of watching films online and playing computer games in our free time, what can we do that is more active, appealing, and potentially constructive? That is, activities that could produce some satisfying, tangible results. Some people write. Joseph Noble is responsible for the popular short book, Corey is in Quarantine. Others compose music, garden, or cook. In my case, it was the last of these, and there is actually a name for it, quarantine cooking, which generally refers to savory dishes thrown together that can be eaten as an entire meal, such as soups, stews, and stir-fries. A subset of this phenomenon is quarantine baking that focuses on sweet creations. Quarantine cooking generally involves real food that meets nutritional needs. It's a form of fruitful boredom, also called procrasta cooking. Though things are opening up a little throughout the US and world, people are still staying at home, limiting trips to the grocery store, and having to deal with the realities of a quarantine mindset, such as hoarding supplies. I have limited my shopping to twice a month, which requires a certain amount of planning ahead, and there's no guarantee that what I want will be on the grocery store shelves once I get there. Online grocery shopping might seem like a good idea, but items are often on back order, involve complicated delivery procedures, and/or are overpriced. For example, a 5-pound bag of flour that I ordered online cost me $18. Shouldn't that be illegal? The goals of my Corona Cuisine project are as follows. 1. To use up items that have been in my cabinets, refrigerator, and freezer for lengthy periods. 2. To devise recipes for ingredients that might not normally be combined, that is, to be creative. And 3. To play constructively. Gardening can be thought of as another example of fruitful boredom. Less reliance on what is available in grocery stores can be achieved by growing your own fruits and vegetables, but this is not something that yields immediate results. I will have to continue to rely mainly on grocery shopping for a while, but did manage to do some local foraging. Stinging nettles are common weeds in my neighborhood. Conscious of the produce problem, I decided to use nettles in a number of recipes, generally substituting them for spinach. And thinking about all those tufts of wild garlic that pop up in the spring all over lawns in my neighborhood, I thought I could combine these weeds in one recipe. In addition to the usual ingredients for an omelet, I substituted nettles for spinach and wild garlic for onions. Both of these plants were growing in my yard, or in my neighbor's yard. I didn't ask her, but I don't think she minded me harvesting her weeds. The result was a stinging nettle, wild garlic, and feta cheese omelet. I also substituted nettles for spinach in a stuffed shells recipe, made nettle soup, and used them in a couple of more traditional pasta dishes. Now let's consider a number of what I call case studies. What do you do with an excess of carrots? Those warehouse stores can be time and money savers, but everything seems to be available only in large quantities, so I ended up with way too many carrots. I adapted a classic glazed carrots recipe using chopped praline pecans that by themselves are so sweet they make your teeth hurt. Fortunately, when mixed with the carrots, a nice balance was achieved. Along with the carrots, I received a large quantity of celery. Cream of celery soup seemed like a good way to use up the excess. The grocery store was out of regular rice, so I purchased a bag of jasmine rice. Using leftover flaked coconut, golden raisins, mango chutney, carrots, and various curry spices, Corona curried rice was born. Two wrongs can make a right. Those excessively sweet pecans and some rather bitter chocolate, when mixed together, resulted in a perfect combination of flavors. I can't recall how long I've had a container of dried morel mushrooms in my refrigerator, maybe as many as 10 years. But I decided that now was the time to use them. The result? Spaghettini with mushroom sauce. I used spaghettini because the store was out of most kinds of pasta, including my first choice, angel hair. I tried to buy some sweet potatoes online, but the system would not allow me to purchase more than one. What can you do that is interesting with just one sweet potato? I found a recipe for sweet potato casserole online and made some additions and substitutions. Wild garlic for garlic powder, agave syrup for maple syrup, and chopped pecans, yes, those overly sweet ones, for walnuts. The result was quite acceptable. Some notes on my quarantine baking. I'm really not a very experienced cook, though maybe that will change before things get back to normal. However, I do have experience baking. The challenge is not how to bake what I wanted, but how to use ingredients I've been storing for years and where I might make substitutions for ingredients that were unavailable. In addition, for some reason, I decided to use the heat from my fireplace to help the bread dough to rise. After rewatching The Day After Tomorrow and rereading the Doomsday Book, I think I wanted to produce some off-the-grid energy. Regardless, this increased my sense of self-sufficiency. Some of my baked creations included cranberry and coconut biscotti. What to do with leftover dried cranberries and flaked coconut. Yellow cake with raspberry sauce. What to do with last year's frozen raspberries. Cupcakes. What to do with some Russian cocoa powder I discovered in one of my cabinets. Applesauce bread. What to do with uncooked apple pieces from my own tree that had been in my freezer for at least a decade. Oatmeal bread. What to do with agave syrup that had been around for several years. Sicilian flatbread. What to do with way too much semolina flour. And basic biscuits. What to do with some old buttermilk powder. All things considered, I think my experiments with Corona Cuisine have been successful. The process has certainly been productive and instructive, and I've been able to exercise my creative energy. An added bonus is that I now have a lot more room in my refrigerator, cabinets, and freezer. You know what they say, when life gives you lemons, make something interesting with what you have in your refrigerator.